Hello and thank you for joining us on the midweek edition of Journalists Hangout. I am Esther Omopariola. Today on the program, INEC expresses concern over spate of litigation as court stands down Godwin Obaseki's suit for out-of-court settlement over Edo Governorship election. Nigeria tops 21,000 COVID-19 cases, 500 deaths as Director-General of NCDC insists no single state in the country is coronavirus-free. And later on the show, Journalists Hangout Midweek Special features the agony of residents of Ogun State communities, Akute, Ajuwon, Alagbole and Olambe over poor roads. I will be hanging out with Babajide Kolade-Otitoju, while Mayor Akinpelu will join us via Skype. Journalist Hangout starts now. Yes, the Edo Governorship election timetable is in motion, yet it appears stakeholders in the project are working at cross purposes. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, is concerned over the spate of pre-election litigation and conflicting court orders ahead of the governorship poll. Now, the Commission, through a statement by INEC National Commissioner in charge of Information and Voter Education, Festus Okoye, said the rate of litigation could harm the smooth conduct of primaries and the main election. Meanwhile, the court case threatening the conduct of primaries of the People's Democratic Party has been resolved. And a federal high court sitting in Port Harcourt struck out the suit by the PDP governorship aspirant Omorege Ogbede-Ihama, seeking to bar Obaseki from contesting the primaries after an out-of-court settlement. Well, I still have Babajide here with me in the studio to analyze this further, and I will be joined much later in the course of the show with Mayor Akinpelu. So now, Jide, we've heard the court striking out the suit filed by the PDP aspirant in the Edo governorship, election, which means that Obaseki is free to contest the PDP primaries, and there isn't any impediment whatsoever. What are your thoughts on how things have unraveled up to this point?
Yes, people will recall that yesterday I said that I was sure that even if Ogbede-Ihama wanted to go on with that case, that I was sure that they would get another court to put it aside. It's consistent with the character of politicians to try to act tough, especially when a new entrant is coming into your party. You spent money you originally wanted to contest. So you have to get that new entrant to realize that you are strong, that if they left you alone, you could even defeat him. So a lot of horse trading would then happen. And part of the effort they make, we see in form of litigation and all that. So what you wanted to do was stop Governor Obaseki from contesting on the premise that at the point when Obaseki joined the party, forms had been bought, and that the field should be left to those of them who started the process. That the waiver granted Obaseki was wrong and all that, that it should have been those of them who started the process, that the process had ended and all that. Well, as I said yesterday, this is not a new thing. APC too had to come up with a waiver for Pastor Ize-Iyamu. This is not the first time that politicians will join a party once the party feels that that politician is wrong, that that politician has capacity. They would want to give him all that he requires to win for them. I remember when Memeko joined the PDP in Ondo State, they had to make some concessions to him. He automatically became the leader of the party in the state. So what the PDP folks are trying to do is to smoothen the path for Obaseki as much as possible, because knowing that he's the governor, he has resources, is an incumbent. These are advantages
that could help the party.
That could help the party, you know, because in our kind of politics, in our kind of electoral process, you cannot discountenance the incumbency factor. The incumbency factor is very strong. I'm not saying that in all cases incumbents win. At least we saw with the governorship election in 2019 that some incumbents didn't win.
Lost their seat.
Yes.
Yes.
So, no. But an incumbent comes with tremendous resources and capacity.
Now, with that being said, you know, you've pointed out definitely they did this for the sake of Obaseki being an incumbent, and so that the party can gain ground to win the elections.
Yes.
when it comes. But some would say that, is it fair on the party to give this to a new entrant? I know you have a case, you have a point in that incumbency, but to a new entrant, people have been there for a long time and they've been wanting to vie for this governorship seat. All of a sudden, someone else comes and takes it over. But looking at it in the eyes of equity, do you think that should have counted first?
Well, you can say, if you put yourself in the shoes of those aspirants, they had been in the party for so long. It's painful for someone to just come in and that person gains all the traction, all the attention, and you are then being appealed to step down and all that. But that's what we've seen that the APC also did. Yamo joined the party very late. People like Odubu, Obaze, and the rest of them, they had been in the party. And I'm sure they had been nursing this ambition for some time. But the APC in Edo State felt that, look, Yamo is the person who can win the election. And they've gone for him and brought him back into the party. You know, he used to be vice chairman South-South for the party at its inception. He left the party to join the PDP. So he's come back home now, and they know what he's got. They know that he's a good grassroots politician, and they fancy his chances of winning. That's why they've gone to him to say, look, come back to the party that you helped us to form and come and be our standard bearer. And he's won the primary, so he's ready now to slug it out with the same person that he slugged it out with 4 years ago.
Now let's look at another issue in point here. Now let's talk about the court litigations, which is a regular phenomenon which we get to see before elections begin. And the INEC has raised concerns that pre-election litigations could harm the smooth conduct of primaries and, of course, upcoming elections. But one begins to wonder if at all these litigations we keep having in every election year in Nigeria is out of genuine concern in terms of good governance or pure inordinate ambitions.
No, it's for a lot of these politicians, it's just pure greed for power and inordinate ambition driving this whole innumerable litigation that we are seeing. And every election cycle, this happens. Talking about the 2019 election, for example, there were about 1,600 plus cases. Now, let me try and be specific. That arose out of that, out of the election. Some of them, yes, there were 1,689 court cases. Out of these, 799 were pre-election matters, and 890 were pre-election matters, and 799 were election petitions. So it shows you that increasingly our people have little faith in the electoral process. They want the courts to win cases for them. They lose an election and they believe that, no, let the judiciary decide whether I indeed lost the election. You know, so we have to find a way to get people to develop greater trust in the electoral process. I believe that the more we fine-tune the electoral process, the more we make the electoral process credible, foolproof, the rate at which these cases will drop. If, for example, an election is very transparent, everybody, the person who lost the election could see that it was well beaten, no ballot box snatching and all that, I believe that the rate at which people will go to court or go to tribunal will go down. If we use the 2015 experience, INEC even admitted it that there were very few court cases arising from the 2015 election. That must mean that the people who were defeated felt that the election was free and fair. And you know, even the president at that time didn't go to court. Goodluck Jonathan didn't say any need to go to court because he felt Buhari was the person that Nigerians voted for, and he accepted his fate. So many people too didn't see any need to go to court.
And so, having us trust and faith in the system is one key factor that we are yet to find in our electoral system. But having said that, what are those modalities that we can adopt to ensure that our electoral system is strengthened so we do not have cases like this coming up in future where before elections are conducted, we have court cases, even after elections are held, we have court cases at our hands. What are those things that we can do to ensure we have a strong electoral system and, of course, a democratic institution?
There has to be, within the parties, there has to be mechanisms by which even shadow elections, primary elections conducted are seen to be done in transparent manner. For example, if you felt cheated in the course of the primaries of your party, it's going to be difficult for anyone to convince you to not go to court. So our parties have a role to play. There must be internal democracy. Internal democracy is largely lacking in our parties. These big people in the parties ensure that it is the aspirants of their choice who get to pick the ticket. Most times, you don't see a level playing field. So this is what many times will push some people to take their party to court. You see, a party like the APC, for example, says, oh, if you go to court, you will be disciplined. But in 2019, ahead of 2019 election, the president said, no, don't stop anybody from going to court because that will be infringing on their rights as enshrined in the Constitution. If you feel aggrieved, you should be free to approach a court of law to seek redress. So the president vetoed the party leadership and said, no, let them go to court. And some of them went to court and won. So this is the thing. Once we have internal democracy at party level, some of these things will not exist. Then, of course, the judiciary is playing a very odious role in this whole thing because the judiciary continues to grant frivolous injunctions, you know, funny ex parte motions and all that, ignoring even the law in some cases. This is what some politicians have exploited, you know, and you can see that INEC is complaining that the ratings are going. You can imagine 24 hours to the primary election in Edo, PDP primary election. One was not even sure whether Governor Obaseki would be on the ballot. There had to be last-minute meetings and all that to get this case withdrawn from court. And that was why the judge had to strike it out so that the coast can be clear for him to go and contest. So I believe that the judiciary has a role to play. The politicians, too, have a role to play. And, of course, INEC. When we have transparent, free, fair, and credible elections, more and more people will not see any need to go and waste money, give lawyers money to contest an election that they believe that they lost.
All right, I understand we have Mayor Akinpelu online now to give his thoughts on this. Good to have you on Journalists Hangout. So right now we understand that the court has struck out the suit filed by a PDP aspirant in the Edo Governorship primaries that Obaseki can contest the primaries, no impediment whatsoever, and they should go for out-of-court settlement. What are your thoughts on what has happened in the course of the Edo Governorship primaries, especially in the PDP?
I think that it is so sad what is happening to our judiciary, because most times politicians try to take advantage of the system by going to court to try to seek advantage one way or the other. And I think it's so sad. The judiciary has to look at the way it operates and stop disgracing themselves, because somebody went to court in Port Harcourt, another one went to another jurisdiction to get an injunction. But it is satisfying that the Port Harcourt court was able to resolve the embarrassment because of the out-of-court settlement. But I think we have to, the judiciary is evolving, but we have to find a way of doing things that politicians will not be in a position to take advantage of the judiciary.
And with that being said, do you think perhaps the political system in Nigeria needs to be rejigged? Because everything just boils down to how defection, the politicians are defecting from one party to the other. So there have been so many talks about the political system in Nigeria today. What are your thoughts on all of this, and how can we ensure that our political system is strengthened?
Yeah, I agree with you, because the major problem is the fact that we have a very weak structure. And when the structure is defective, it is easier for the participants to take advantage of it. We have to look for a way where politicians should not, we should make it difficult for politicians to cross carpet the way they do. Because a politician knows that they can just move from one party to another party few days to primaries, and they will seek an understanding or negotiate to become the candidate. And it's becoming the norm. We shouldn't be so. We have to find a way of putting structures in place that will make sure that our politicians don't take advantage of the system. Because the structure is defective, the politicians and major players within the political space takes advantage of the system.
And looking at the frequent litigations we keep having every election year, and we understand that INEC spokesman is raising concern that if we keep having this, we wouldn't have smooth elections, and of course the conduct of elections, we might have some hiccups. But with that in mind, one is beginning to ask: is this pure governance that we have politicians going through this route, or it's just pure inordinate ambitions?
I think it has to do with love for power, because politicians are so desperate to seek power, and because they will do anything to achieve that purpose, they will go to any length to do whatever they like. And I think we have to go back to the National Assembly. I think the National Assembly should be able to tinker the Electoral Act in a way that politicians will not take advantage of it. They should, because I think the problem has to do with the Electoral Act and other acts governing the elections in Nigeria. Because it is defective, it is easier to manipulate the system. And we have to do something about that, because it's in the course of taking advantage of the system that politicians have corrupted the judiciary. And it's so easy for anybody to get injunction or to get relief from. You just go, they shop around and try to look for a court that will do their bidding. We shouldn't be so, because it's so sad that, but that is the norm now. We see it happen time and time again, and anybody can just go to court. And for example, the out-of-court settlement obviously was negotiation between the candidates that felt, oh, this guy just came to our party and is taking advantage of the system. And politicians always do that. But the only way we can stop them from taking advantage of the system is to strengthen the structure. And we can do that through the Electoral Act.
Absolutely. I can't agree any more or less from what you've said so far. But let's wrap up this segment. Let's look at the Ondo situation, where we have the deputy governor having to have decamped from the APC to the PDP. Well, after that incident, we understand that the governor, Akeredolu, sacked sacked his aides, and in a swift reaction, the deputy governor reappointed his aides. Well, we do not know how we can explain all of this, but what's your assessment in what's playing out in Ondo State, where we have the deputy governor from PDP and the present governor of Ondo State is from APC? What do you make of what's happening in the Sunshine State?
Again, it's part of the problems within the system. But, you know, because there is the constitution is not very clear as to the roles of the deputy governor. The deputy governor gets whatever he does is at the pleasure of the governor. And not only that, there's a precedent. During the time of Obasanjo, you remember that Vice President Atiku decamped, and both of them still operated, because the only way you can remove the deputy governor is to impeach him. And if you don't impeach him, because the constitution is not clear as to the party that you should be, the deputy governor is still in office. They may be in different parties, but the deputy governor is in office. That's the law. And unless he's impeached, the governor cannot do anything about that.
Babajide, what do you have to say about this?
Yes, they came to office on a joint ticket. They are inseparable. They are like conjoined twins. So you cannot wish him away. If he chooses not to resign, he remains in office until you are able to impeach him. And we have seen from recent experiences that some governors would want to impeach their deputies and not succeed. Okorocha tried to impeach his deputy, but he didn't succeed because some of the assembly members felt, no, this should not happen. So, and we've seen some impeach their deputy. The deputy went to court and was restored to his position. It happened in Taraba. You know, in fact, the deputy who was impeached became an acting governor and held on until the elections were held in 2015. So this is the situation.
So from the look of things, are we likely to see more unraveling scenario in Ondo State? Yes,
because the party is divided in that state, the APC is divided in that state, and more and more people are showing interest in contesting against the governor. In that kind of situation, anything can happen. More people could defect before the election, and clearly a number of people are interested in the governor's seat. So from within his party, and they will contest the primaries against him.
Right. Mayor, final take on this discussion before we go on a short break.
I think Ondo State is going to be very interesting. The deputy governor defecting to PDP is a major problem for APC in that state, because Ondo is not only an APC state. So if it depends on how many people defect with the deputy governor to PDP. If more people, like Babajide said, defect between now and the primaries or election, that may be a decider, because most times when you want to take a state from the other party, you need to move some people from one party to strengthen the other party. And Governor Akute is not on top of. I hope we will be able to survive it, because it depends on those who move with the deputy governor.
Indeed. Quite an interesting development we see in Ondo State. Well, still to come on the program, Nigeria tops 21,000 COVID-19 cases, 500 deaths, as Director-General of NCDC insists no single state in the country is coronavirus free. Stay with us here for more after this. Reaching an alarming rate. Well, on Tuesday, the country recorded 452 new confirmed cases of the deadly virus, meaning it has topped about 21,000. Now, the total COVID-19 infections in the country now stands at 21,327, while the number of deaths is 533. As a result of these rising cases, the Director-General of the Nigeria Center for Disease Control insists no single state in the country is coronavirus-free. Babajide, you know, when I hear these numbers, some people are like, this is not true. This is a hoax. Why should we believe in it? Up till this point, some even asking me, do you think coronavirus even exists?
Until they kill someone within their household, they will not believe.
God forbid.
But we have seen, well, the people who choose to behave like it doesn't exist, and they are not taking any precaution, they are careless, there's no way it won't get to them, except they are just lucky. You know, except they are just lucky. It is clear, just as the DG said, that this is a global pandemic. It has breached international borders. You can't sit in Nigeria and deceive yourself that, oh, your state, my state, there is no corona. We know why you are doing that. It's because you don't want to spend money. The states that are managing this is costing them billions of naira. The Lagos State Governor said the other day how much it has cost them, because it's costing about 50,000 even to do tests, one test. So you can imagine, so some of them are running away, they don't want to take responsibility, and they are now saying, oh, there's no corona in my state. We know why they are running away, and that's why the DG was saying that no state in Nigeria is COVID-19 free, and no country in the world can confidently claim to be COVID-19 free. It is a global pandemic, and we can't separate ourselves from the world. It is not a shame to have positive cases in your state. Denial will only make the issue more difficult. If we don't know the status of your people, you are indirectly putting the lives of your people and those of health workers at risk. So this is exactly what is happening, because the way it is and the rate at which it replicates itself, the transmission, is just not possible for anyone to say, oh, in Nigeria now, my state is COVID-19 free.
You know, that is very worrying. But Mayor, when you look at these figures, what comes to your mind? Do you think we are doing enough in terms of sensitization, or it's just pure lackadaisical attitude on the part of Nigerians that, you know, COVID-19 exists, but it cannot kill me?
Let me start by saying that I think that the NCDC made a mistake by not, that's my view, by not looking at a Nigerian version of solving the problem. I think we've copied so many things using the international playbook, and maybe we made a few mistakes there. Why I'm saying that is that when the majority of the people, when the rest of the world was locking down, we also did our own lockdown. When they were trying to reopen, we started our own gradual reopening. But I have a feeling that it is now that we should have our own lockdown. The time we had our lockdown, the cases were just emerging. Now there is more of community spread now when we are supposed to have our lockdown. And that is why I think we have it, because we have community spread now, and the figures are frightening, because every day you see that, if you remember, during the time of lockdown, we used to have maybe 100, something cases. Now we have an average of between 600 and 700, or 500 and 700 cases. So I think that's part of the problem. And I don't think we have reached the peak yet. And already we've started the gradual reopening. So that is part of the problem. Another problem is that I think that there's not enough sensitization. I don't know what, well, I don't want to criticize it, but I think the Minister of Information, especially the National Orientation Agency, are not doing enough, because people are not really aware or educated enough of what COVID-19 is all about. Yes, there are some adverts in the media, but it's not enough. An average man in the street does not really understand the seriousness of COVID-19. Even the so-called elites, a lot of elites are not they don't even understand the seriousness of this COVID-19. Because you will see people tell you, there was a time I had an encounter with, during the early stages of the lockdown, there was a time I had an encounter with a medical doctor who said he didn't believe the COVID-19 figures that he was hearing. And I asked why. And he said because that he has toured a lot of the isolation centers, and he didn't see people who were dying. And I was so furious. And I said, look, how can you, a medical doctor, say this? What do you expect an average man in the street to say? Because you didn't see people, because you didn't see dead bodies, or you cannot count you don't have body counts, does not mean this thing does not exist. Now, so because of a lot of people do not understand it. That's why a lot of elites don't. It is when it affects those they know that they now realize that, oh, this is a serious thing. So I think the government should do more, because an average Nigerian does not really know the seriousness of COVID-19, and that would not help when it comes to community spread.
Yes, that would not help, definitely. But when we look at this thing, when we join everything together, it seems as though there isn't much done. For instance, let's look at the primaries that are going to be held in Edo State right now, and there's so much, in terms of people coming together, and we're going to have, I don't know, let me not preempt, but what in a few sentences or two, what can you say about the government's commitment to eradicating this pandemic, even when we are going to hold primaries tomorrow and, of course, governorship elections?
You see, because when it comes to power, people will do anything to get power, and they can be selfish sometimes. They are not really looking at the larger interests of the community when they are doing these primaries. They just want to achieve their own aim of emerging as candidate. And it's like that. The same thing is playing in America, where you see a President Trump who knew that more than 120,000 people, now 121,000 people have died, and the spread is on the rise in about 25 states. And yet the same president organized a rally in a state that COVID-19 cases was on the rise. It's not because he knows that he's going to hate community spread. It's going to increase those that will go to. In fact, he's aware of his campaign organization aware, because they ask people who attended the conference to sign an undertaking that they are not liable. So when it comes to power, people sometimes are selfish. They don't look at the larger good, because there's no way people will congregate that they will not be at risk of spreading the virus.
Now, Jide, from what you said so far, definitely it is not just the government. The elites also contributes to what we are having right now before us. What are your thoughts on what we have?
Yes, and I agree that we have not done enough sensitization, but some of the comments, irresponsible comments of some of the elites, have helped to fuel the cynicism that is running rampant in our country over this coronavirus. Where somebody comes out of treatment, instead of thanking God and thanking the caregivers, is saying that, oh, what is the difference between coronavirus and malaria? Those are not the kind of comments that you should be making, because that's irresponsible.
Right.
And then we are a governor who can see that other governors are fighting this disease, goes out to say, no, this is a political, steps out of a gym and say this is a political disease. It does not help matters, because you now find ordinary mortals who see those people as their role models saying the same thing. So it does not help our cause at all.
All right, now it seems we have Saliu Tanko Yakasai, Special Advisor to Kano State Governor, to talk about the Kano situation. Good to have you on Journalists Hangout this evening. So put us in perspective on what you can tell us about the true situation of COVID-19 cases in Kano, because we know the media has been awash that the people that had died of mysterious deaths, and it had been linked to COVID-19. Put us into perspective of what the situation is right now in Kano.
Well, there are two parts of the question that you asked. First of all, the situation in Kano is under control. We have increased the number of testing that we are doing currently in the state. The sample collection has increased. We have reached a stage whereby we are conducting community sampling at the moment in about 2 local governments that are being used as a pilot case, and then they will be extended to 2 other local governments very soon, within the 8 local governments in the metropolitan area. So this is a very positive development in terms of the number of testing that the state government has been able to do in collaboration with the NCDC and the testing centers that we have in the state. The second part of your question, which is the issue of the mysterious death that happened a couple of months back, fortunately enough, the state government had to ask the Ministry of Health to set up a committee, and this committee was in partnership with developmental partners. I'm talking about World Health Organization, UNICEF, DFID, and a couple of others. And they worked together from the 2nd of March to the 2nd of May, that's 2 months, and they were able to conduct a verbal autopsy on a number of the deaths that were recorded within that period. I think they were able to do verbal autopsy on 1,604 deaths that were recorded during that period. And out of that number, they were able to find that 15%, a little over 15% of that number, had cases that or symptoms that are symptoms like COVID-19 related. You understand? And that number, total of that number is about 255. You know, and the rest of the other ailments, deaths, I mean, as a result of other ailments, like hypertension, high blood, high BP, and so on and so forth. And another thing that the report was able to find is that, like we have always said, the state government has always said, at the beginning of the lockdown, the healthcare system practically was put on hold, particularly the private hospitals that stopped receiving patients, and as such, that also added to those that did not have access to healthcare, which resulted in the death of some of them.
All right.
And then there's also the angle. The report also found out that some of them. Yeah, go ahead.
All right. Well, that's a fine place to leave it with. Thank you very much for all you've given us right now on the show. We appreciate your time on Journalists Hangout. And now to our Journalists Hangout Midweek Special for today. Our overtime, poor infrastructure has been identified as one of the noticeable features of Ogun State border communities, and this is the result of years of neglect by successive administrations. Alagbole, Akute, Ajuwon, Olambe communities in Ogun State have some of the worst roads in Nigeria. And TVC News' Karima Salami filed this report on the agony of residents of Akute and other communities on the poor roads.
This is what is left of the road connecting Akute, a border community in Ogun State, with Ojedobega, a busy part of Lagos State. A majority of the residents of Akute earn their living in Lagos and must use these deplorable roads every day. These roads now represent a bad advertisement for the failure of successive governments in Ogun State, as it has now become one of the abandoned projects in the state. The 32-kilometer road from Songwater with 5 bridges was started in 2012 and had led to the demolition of many houses. The state government at the time said the 32-kilometer highway will link Sango, Ijoko and Bega through several communities. But this has only subjected residents of Akute, Ishashi, Lambe, Alagbole, Ajuwon and others to untold hardship.
Residents of Akute and its environs have been lamenting the terrible state of this road and neglect by successive governments in Ogun State. And with the rains comes more pains for commuters and residents of this border town. Every day, their hope dims.
For anyone making a shuttle out of the community to any part of Lagos, it is literally regarded as a shuttle from the dark ages to civilization. The residents are wailing, singing songs of vision. The residents are wailing, singing songs of woes and lamentations.
All these our governors, both the present and the past, from the beginning of day one. They only come here and do campaign and pour sand. After the campaign, they leave us for we to carry our cross. And this thing is getting too much. We are not daft. When it comes to during the time of election, that is when they will come here and they will start pouring sand on this road. After that, they will not leave us alone. I will be suffering for all these things. Look at this car. I spend a lot on this car alone, just on the bushing and the rest of them.
We can't walk. See my marijuana, you dey inside water since 3 days now. We can't use it to walk. I need to go and get a mechanic to come help me do it and take and walk. Since 3 years, then go come and we go vote for them. Then they collect tax for our hand. I beg, I want to tell Mr. President or Mr. Governor, Dakwabiodun, so for Ogun State Governor, I want to beg them, or if for local government, make them help us for this road. The road is bad. It affects work. It affects our work. We can't work. We can't feed our family.
Feintola Smith is a retiree whose building has been affected by the poor state of this road. The 60-year-old told me her business has crumbled and her means of survival comes under threat once the rainy season sets in.
The road is terribly bad, right off. In fact, many of the occasions, you see over 100 people falling inside on the back. And sometimes vehicles, like over 10, will spoil inside the water. Sometimes keke maruwa, they will spoil inside the water. Don't even talk of okada, they will fall in their multitude. I did sand drainage, but I've spent a lot. The water is not entering inside the drainage. And as a result, when there is heavy rain, the water will enter inside my compound. 3 days ago, it nearly demolished the whole compound. It was a big flood.
The people here are literally in distress, but most worrisome is the fact that year after year, administration after administration, the area is neglected by the state government.
Akute, to be precise.
Emmanuel Apidi lives here and accuses the successive governments of making empty promises. He has been forced to abandon his car at home. He now rides motorcycles and tricycles, which leave him disoriented with his face and clothes stained with every ride.
The road is bad. Look at the road. This is absurd. For over 10 years I've been in Akute. We have never enjoyed a good road. But this is probably the second time we're having another government. The first government promised us that they are going to fix the road. Each time they want to campaign, they will come to this area and campaign and promise you that once you elect them in, they are going to fix the road. But we've been having all these promises and none of their promises has been kept. Just look at the road. This is Olori Osaro to Lambe. We have not seen anything. I don't go out with car. I have to run on a bike. We don't go out because once it rains, this place is dreadlock. Everywhere, no going out, no coming in.
Many are calling the construction another white elephant project and a total failure based on the hardship it has caused after so much taxpayers' money has been sunk into it. Aside the high level of discomfort, some residents say this dreadful road has become a major health risk for them. It is almost a death wish for any physically challenged to use this road. Lekon Onobanjo is self-employed but decried his wife leaving home as early as 4:30 a.m. daily. He told me her daily travel time on this road has become dangerous to her health and well-being.
You can't live in this area and you have vehicles that will survive 1 year. It's not possible. It's terrible. It's so bad. Something has to be done as soon as possible, please. And I tell you something. This road has potentials of generating a lot of IGR for Ogun State. I don't know why they cannot tap that opportunity. Fix the road and toll it. People will pay. Why leave the road in this kind of state? I pity those who work 5 to 9. You know, people leave as early as 4. Risk their lives to leave home as early as 4 o'clock to get to office. It is not nice. you know, and then they get home at 10 o'clock. My wife leaves as late as 4:30, and that's insane.
Most times, I don't even want to come home.
Emmanuel's marital life has suffered terribly as he cannot endure his commuting like some. He is forced to stay back at work with his friend and can only interact with family via video calls to keep in touch.
Most times, I don't even want to come home, because if I think on the stress to drive back home, I'll just be like, oh, I'm not coming home. I have to call my family. I sleep in my friend's place. My son is attached to me. Sometimes I have to, if I know I'm not coming home, I have to make video calls to make him feel, okay, daddy is around. Sure you get. But then I wonder what other people faces. Because to be sincere, if this place would have been a Lagos State road, I believe Lagos State can do something. But Ogun State has forgotten that people stays here.
And with the rainy seasons comes a hard time for commuters and drivers on these roads who silently pray that governments will remember them before election campaigns. Karima Salami, TVC News, Ogun State.
Wow. Well, that's one of our midweek special for Journalists Hangouts. Jide, when we saw that video, roads are usual, dilapidated in Lagos. For instance, if you go to feeder roads, they are really in bad shape, not just in Ogun State. Even in my present place in Ikorodu, it's not motorable. What are your thoughts on the government's, response to the needs of the people when they know we need it most? But when it's time for elections, they'll come out and they'll be asking or promising heaven and earth.
Well, all we can do is appeal to them that people are living in these areas, Olambe, Alagbole, Ijoko, Akute. Let them go and fix these roads. I have not so much to say. If they don't fix these roads, we will not leave them alone. We'll go back there. We'll continue to do this story until they fix the road. That's all I have to say. Indeed,
and we have the Commissioner for Works, Lagos State, Ade Adesonya, and he joins me now to bring his thoughts on this. Ogun State Commissioner of Works, rather, Ade Adesonya, joins me now on Journalist Hangout. Good to have you on the program. So yes, we've been having reports of poor roads in Alagbole, Akute, and environs. What is the government doing to assuage the residents of that area, make life better for them?
Good afternoon. This is Ade Adesonya, the Commissioner for Works in Ogun State. Well, this particular issue is not limited to the area you're talking about. It's across the state. What His Excellency is doing right now is comprehensively looking at all the bad roads. You mentioned the Alagbole area, Akute. There's a road that was started in 2012 or 2013. From Songo to Akute, which is a 32-kilometer road. And it was abandoned some years ago. So what I'm doing right now, the directive from His Excellency, is to look how do we bring that project back. As the last few days, I've looked at the design, trying to modify it. So I can assure the people that we are working on it. The contractor will soon be back on the project. That's on the project. In addition to that, we are looking at the Ishashi, Denro, Okiaro, Lambe, Matogun. So all those axes are under our view right now. The design has been done for some of them already. The Ishashi, Denro, which is about 4.85 kilometers, that is ready to go. The Okiaro, Lambe, Matogun is about 9 kilometers. The design is ready to go also. It's just some logistics we are going through. But they can be rest assured, we are looking at everywhere. So all the abandoned projects or ongoing projects, we are looking at them. Some of them have already started. The one in Kuto is already started. The Lafenwa, Randa, Ayetoro. The contractor is almost back at site. The Ogun Ilaro project is starting also.
All right.
So, but
we are paying attention to what everybody is saying, and the governor is addressing them.
All right, thank you very much. Well, we appreciate. I know you have a lot to tell us about what the government has in store for the people of Ogun State. Well, let's hope that you keep to your words to action. Thank you very much, Ade Adesoya, Commissioner for Works, Ogun State, for joining us on Journalists Hangout. And of course, I'd like to thank my guests in the studio, as usual, Babajide Kolade-Otitoju and Mayor Akinpelu, who joined me earlier, or who is rather still on Skype. Thank you for your insights on the program this evening. And that's all for today's episode. Tomorrow is another edition of the program. You can also watch Journalists Hangout on other platforms showing on the screen and on YouTube at youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. Our feedback channel is Journalists Hangout at tvcnews.tv. I am Esther Omopariola. Bye for now, and God bless Nigeria.